Hey guys, hope everything's going good. I'm just going to go over 9-2 rotations with you real quick, and it's not too bad. It just takes a minute to figure out the notation. But our objective today is to rotate the pre-image over various angle measures to obtain the image. And starting out, a rotation is a transformation that turns every point of a pre-image through a specific angle and direction about a fixed point. So looking at these two shapes, you can see that this one, as it rotates this direction, if I were to find where it was rotating about, I would find somewhere in the middle, and it looks like this would probably be like right here would be the middle point, somewhere right there, and it's rotating around that point. So if I were to attach any one of these corners to that middle point, it would be the exact same distance to the other middle point, and that's all rotation does. So if we go to this next one, you can see that the point of rotation looks like it's going to be somewhere right there, and all of those points will be that same distance across. So not too bad. But now, using this rotation, we have to figure out on a graph. Here we have a triangle, and we need to find the new coordinates of the image after the rotation, after we rotate the pre-image 180 degrees about the origin. So some important things here. The first thing is 180 degrees, and that's going to tell us how far, and then where we're rotating around is the origin. That's important as well. So then I take that information, and we need to go through and figure it out. So I figure we're going to rotate it. It doesn't tell us what direction specifically, so it doesn't really matter. So I take either the X or the Y, or the clockwise or counterclockwise. And so I'm going to go clockwise on this one, and I want to go 180 degrees. So that means if I drew a straight line from this point, 180 degrees would be straight down over here. But to find this, I'm going to put a point, and I'm going to start at the origin where I'm rotating around, and I'm going to go left one, up one. And so I go left one, up one. If I rotate this shape right here, this little half of a square, if I rotate it 180 degrees, that means I'm going to go right one, down one, and I put a dot. So now I figured out I rotated this shape 180 degrees, and that's where my dot goes for this one. I can do that exact same thing for the other dots as we go along. And starting out, this ordered pair here was -1, 1, and that's going to map to, if we chart this point, which would be 1, -1. So I'm going to go ahead and write that out, and then we move to the next one, where I'm going to plot this point here, and I'm going to start at the origin. I'm going to go left 5, up 1. That means if I rotate 180 degrees, I'm going to go right 5, down 1, and put a dot. And then I would write that out at -5, 1, which is the coordinate for this. It would turn into 5, -1. Our last dot for this shape, I'm going to go left 4, up 5, and that means I will go right 4, down 5 to do the exact same on this side, and that gives us -4, 5 maps to 4, -5. So now, with this one, we want to know what's the rule. If I were to pick any point on here and I would rotate it around the origin at 180 degrees, what's the rule for this specific one? Well, -1, 1 turns into 1, -1. -5, 1 turns into 5, -1. -4, 5 turns into 4, -5. So that means that our rule here, it looks like X and Y, if we look from there, 5, 5, it stays in the same spot, but it becomes -X, -Y. So if you pick any point on this graph and rotate it 180 degrees around the origin, all you have to do is make X negative and Y negative for whatever your ordered pair is, and you'll get the correct answer. Our next example goes over this rectangle, and we're going to rotate the pre-image 90 degrees clockwise. So, and it's about the origin. So some important things here: 90 degrees clockwise and the origin. That kind of helps us out that what we know we're rotating around in the direction we're going. So we go clockwise, and I'm going to pick this point here, and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. So to kind of help visualize that, I'm going to draw my little line, and since I go left 2, down 2, I'm going to go up 2, left 2. So that just kind of switches around, but see this shape right here? It just rotated 90 degrees. It's the same shape, but a 90 degree. And so I'm going to plot those 2 points, and I get -2, -2, maps to, and as it maps to -2, 2. And then we go to our next one. So I'm going to plot this point here, and it looks like it's -2, 4. So I rotate that 90 degrees clockwise, and I get up to right 4, and that ordered pair there, we have -2, 4 turns into 4, 2. And then the next point, you can see if I'm making a rectangle, there's 2 spaces in between. I've plotted the 2 bottom points. There has to be 2 spaces in between, so I don't have to do the rotation on those 2 extra points. I just have to plot them, and so I get -4, -2, which gives me this point down here. It's going to rotate up to -2, 4, which is this point here. And then our last one is -4, 4. It maps to 4, 4. So then the rule here, what's the rule? We have x comma y, and as we go through this, as we look at these numbers, let's check out this middle one here. -2, 4 turns into 4, -2. So that kind of tells us that the 4 stays the same, but it's in the wrong spot. So I know x and y switch places, but x becomes negative. So whatever x is, -2, if I add a negative to that, it becomes positive, which we see over here, it became a positive. So I switch x and y and make x negative. Our last one for today is we want to find the pre-image of a 90-degree rotation counterclockwise about the origin. So again, some important words there: 90 degrees counterclockwise and the origin. So I'm going to start the same thing we just did with those 4 points, but I'm going to, instead of rotating clockwise, I'm going to rotate counterclockwise. And as we do that, the first one you can see is I went left 2, down 2. That means I go down 2, right 2, and that gives me a 90-degree counterclockwise rotation. So I'm going to map that. So I have -2, -2 maps to 2, -2. And then I just go through each point. The next one I go left 4, down 2. That means I go down 4, left 2, and I map that. -4, -2 maps to 2, -4. And then I would just keep going. So I would map the next one, which we have here, a -2, +4, so that goes down to left 4. And I can finish this. I have my shape here, my rectangle. I just have to put this last dot in. But as I map these, -2, 4 turns into -4, -2. And the last one, -4, 4 turns into -4, -4. So again, what's the rule? As we look at all of these ones, the 2 and the 4 switch places. The 2 and the 4 switch places. So I know x and y are going to switch places. But something else happens here. As you can see, this is a +4, and that one's now a negative and a negative. So I know that my rule here, y must be negative. If I rotate counterclockwise 90 degrees, no matter what the point is around the origin, I just have to flip x and y and make y negative. Alright, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. I hope you guys have a good day, and I'll talk to you guys later.